Romany and Raq by G Bramwell Evens. Give me the clear blue sky over my head and the green turf beneath my feet, a winding road before me, and then to thinking. Chapter 21. The Revelations of Raq. I am a spaniel, and I would rather be that kind of a dog than any other in the world. I once overheard my master say, there is no more intelligent or lovable beast than a spaniel. That is why I am so content. Many people say that animals cannot think or reason. That is why I am putting down a few of my thoughts on paper. To begin with, I was born in a big box, and though I do not remember a great deal about it, yet some things do come back to me. I was brought into the world blind, but I could wriggle about from the first minute. Perhaps that is why I was born with my eyes shut, so that I shouldn't wander very far from the warm nest. I knew that I was not the only one, for I could hear other little squeaks and feel other wrigglers roll onto me. The only thing that I was really conscious of were, firstly, a big warmth that it was jolly to be beside, secondly, a big hole in my insides which this big warmth had the means of filling. The big warmth, of course, was my mother, and I cannot describe how beautiful was the milk she gave to us. Though I could not see, yet I could smell, and that is how I used to nose my way to the source of supply. I always fought for the same place at meal times. The best place was nearest to our mother's head, and the weakest of my brothers and sisters always got pushed lower down to the other end. I believe those ill-behaved creatures which humans call pigs refer to the weakest as runt or the recklin. At least I have heard farmers refer to them as such. It was a great day for me when my eyes were opened. I believe I was 9 days old at the time. I remember it because someone came and picked me up, and I felt the first touch of fingers and the cold chill of the outside air. But as soon as I was back again in the box, my mother licked me all over. This was not because I was dirty, but because she said that it was a dog's custom never to let any human scent remain on young dogs. She told us that puppies themselves have a scent, but that if they lay still it grew very faint, and so any passing enemy went by without doing any harm. When we asked her why we had a scent at all, she told us that we should learn the reason fully when we were older. Of course, I now know that it is one of the ways where my dogs recognise one another. With a good breeze blowing, I can smell one of my own friends quite a field away. As we grew older, so we were able to move our legs about and see better. At first we could only distinguish light from shade. Then we could see things that moved. Finally, we were able to distinguish everything that was near at hand. When this time arrived, then our mother used to encourage us to play and tumble about together. She brought us a piece of rag and we used to play tug of war. Then we had mimic battles amongst ourselves, and sometimes the play would get rather rough. Then sometimes our mother would growl out her displeasure, and I have seen her nip one of my brothers with her teeth. You will need all your strength in the big outside world, she used to say, so play on. You will find out what you can and what you can't do. As it is all in fun and nothing depends on it, failures don't matter. But in the big world outside, failure oftentimes means suffering and death. So we used to struggle and play for hours on end, and I could feel my soft flesh turning into muscle, and my limbs getting bigger and more firmly set. Now that I am older, I can see the value of these play hours. I did not know what I was doing at the time, but now I am grown up, I do in the emergency what I have learnt in fun, and do it with confidence. Just take, for instance, that greyhound who lives down the road. When he was a puppy, I had seen him chase his brothers and sisters in circles. That is how he learned to swerve and turn quickly, and now, when he hunts the quick-footed hare, he knows not only how to turn, but what speed in turning is safe. Of course, we were taught other things. When we went for a walk with our mother, she used to put her nose deep down into things which were harmless, and we used to smell it after her, and store up the smell in our brains. Humans store up all kinds of things in their minds. They know their houses by their numbers or names. We know them by their smells. But if a thing were harmful, our mother would put her nose down to it, then she would lift her head and walk away. Sometimes her tail would stop wagging, and then we knew that what she had found was very injurious. Human beings are eye-minded and ear-minded, but we dogs are nose-minded. We live in a world chiefly of scents and smells. When we meet one another, we do not say, as my master does, "How do you do?" or talk about the weather. We ask, "Good scenting?" And if the scent is in the air, we raise our noses. If strong on the ground, we turn our muzzles downwards. As soon as ever we could trot about as puppies, our first instinct was to follow the big one that protected and fed us. That is why we like to attach ourselves to human beings. Perhaps there is a deeper reason too, for I remember my mother telling us that thousands of years ago all dogs lived like wolves in packs and followed a trusted leader. I believe she said that at one time we were wolves, but had developed into something better, just as my master's ancestors were once monkeys, and now he is a man. But the other reason why we love human beings is because we do not like being alone. We are not individualists, like cats who live for themselves and themselves alone. Selfish spitfires who love places rather than people, and who only live near human beings because they find them their food easily. In those far-off days, my mother told me that we all lived in packs, and so we have a sociable nature and can enter into family life. That is what makes us such good watchdogs. We do not bark to keep people awake at nights, but because it is in our nature to warn the whole pack if we think that we scent danger. You have never heard a cat give the alarm at night. Also, I think that we are restless at night because when we were in a wild state, our great foe used to prowl about. I mean the leopard, who liked nothing better than a dog for his supper. I have often wondered whether our dislike and suspicion of a cat really grew out of our hatred of the leopard, for this animal is nothing more than a big cat and belongs to the same family. It was a great day for me when my master came and chose me for his very own. He looked at me and my brothers, and then, picking me up, said, "That's the little beggar I want," and I knew by the very feel of his fingers and the tone of his voice that he loved a dog. That, by the way, is how we understand most of what humans say, by the tone, not merely by the words. I like my mistress, but she always puzzles me because she issues her commands in different words. My master says "seek" or "fetch my slippers," and I know what he means every time. But my mistress says, "Go into the kitchen and bring your master's slippers," or "Your master wants his slippers." Fortunately, the word slippers is an easy tone to remember and gives me the clue. But what a curious new world I had come to, and how quickly I was expected to learn 1,000 different details. I might go down the steps which lead from the kitchen to the garden, but I was not allowed, at least when my master was out, to go upstairs in the house. He used to take me up into his study, and when my mistress was away from home, I used to sleep in his bedroom at the foot of his bed. What interested me most was the way he used to take his outer skin off, so that I hardly recognised him except by his scent before he got into bed. Then I was expected to know whom to bark at and whom to wag my tail at. My mistress scolded me one day for growling at a friend of hers, but I didn't like her at all, and I knew she didn't like dogs, although she tried to pat me. Once, when some visitors came to the front door, I growled at them, and was sent to the kitchen in disgrace. They had a good meal in the dining room too, and I heard them laughing and talking. But after they had gone, I heard my mistress say, "Weren't they dreadful people? Now if she disliked them so much, why ever didn't she let me send them away from the door when they first came as I wanted to?" These are the sort of things that puzzle me. If I meet a dog and we are not on good terms, I don't let him come near me. I just show my teeth and put up the fur round my neck. That is generally a good enough warning. Again, all my food is put on the floor in a basin. But how can I be expected to know that it is the only dish I may touch? There is one wonderful small room, white and clean, with a lot of shelves in it. Oh, what appetizing odours issue from under the door. Stews, gravies, joints. But if I find the door open and some pan or other on the floor, I'm not even allowed to skim the top of it with my tongue. And in dogdom, finding's keeping. I love my master, but he has such curious ways. People say that animals are creatures of instinct and habit, and do everything without reason. But just think what funny things he does. Sometimes, when he comes to dinner, I have heard him say, "Oh, I'm not all that hungry," but he eats his dinner all the same. Now, animals never do that. You never find them eating when they aren't hungry. Human beings eat just because it has become a habit with them. Then they wonder why they don't feel well. Then, as I sit in the dining room, I wonder at the different kinds of food that they mix up together. At first I thought that my master would choose one of the dishes and no more. If he were a dog, he would have chosen the meat, and have eaten that and nothing else. But he mixes it with potatoes and sodden cabbage or turnips. Then, on top of it all, he sends down custard and apple pie, and sometimes he pours coffee on the whole lot. But animals never eat and drink at the same time. If my master's boy or girl doesn't feel well, he gives them drugs and medicine. I've noticed that he always tries it on them or on my mistress first. That is another thing which proves how unselfish he is. We animals, however, rely on a good starve when we are not well, and drink big draughts of cold water. Another thing puzzles me. My master is very fond of washing himself. He even uses a flashing knife to one part of his face, but he never thinks of washing his insides as well as his outsides. We dogs, however, think even more of that than we do of our skins, and so we drink as much water as we can hold, and whenever we can. I don't think I ever remember seeing my mistress drink any cold water. She always heats it up first and colours it a dark brown. Talking about being in the dining room at meal times reminds me of another thing which took a lot of learning. Sometimes my master would give me a little piece of meat, and my mistress would say, "You know, dear, you should not feed that dog in here." I used to think that he looked a bit frightened when she spoke like that, but he soon recovered. I've been with him at all hours of the day and night, and I used to think that he was absolutely fearless. I've seen him playing football, and the way he knocked over big men proves that he has tremendous courage, but a little sentence like that seemed to bowl him over. If he had a tail, I'm sure he would have dropped it between his legs, just as I do when I feel nervous. Why he doesn't use his football strength at such times puzzles me. Then I've heard my mistress say, "That dog does bolt his food ravenously. I wonder why he eats so badly." She forgets that it is my nature to eat like that. A cat is a solitary creature and hunts alone. Consequently, she can take her kill away to some quiet corner and eat it leisurely. There is no one to share it with her. But we dogs, being members of a pack, used to bring down the buck or the sheep and immediately belonged to us all. Those who could eat quickest got the most. Those who ate slowly, if there were any, went away hungry. The best time of my life is when we go to live in tents. Sometimes my master packs up a small one, and then him and me go off together, eat together, sleep together. Then it is that he even dresses differently. There is no stiff white collar round his neck. I cannot understand why he has this on, for every dog hates a collar. It is the sign of servitude, and my master is no slave. I have even heard him call it a dog collar, and I know by his tone that he hates it too. Once, when it lay on the ground, I saw some printing on the inside, so perhaps that is his name and address engraved on it, like some of our collars have. Perhaps, not being able to scent his way as we can, he easily gets lost in the streets of a big town. Then, when we go off alone, he leaves his heavy boots in the tent, and for hours goes about unshod, even as I do. His hat, too, is put on one side, and he walks about a real man. But as soon as we get back to town again, all the old things are back again in their place. It is a pity that he is such a creature of habit. Then, too, I've noticed that my mistress has curious ways of dressing. She, too, wears an outer skin like my master, but she molts far oftener. When I compare her with the other women in the street, I notice that she is wearing similar colours and similar shapes. In fact, there is as much sameness in women's skin as in men's, only, as I say, they cast their skins oftener. This is because they are like dogs, members of a pack, social animals. You see, in our original state all wild dogs were brown. Such a colour hid them from their foes. If a striped dog had appeared, they would have chased him from the tribe. Why? Because an odd-looking dog would have made the whole pack conspicuous. A prowling leopard would have noticed the striped one, and so the pack would suffer. And so every dog has to be like his neighbour. If he isn't, he suffers. I suppose that must be why my mistress, along with other members of the herd, all dress alike. The leaders of the pack must meet somewhere and decide what the colour and shape of the new skin is to be. Then the commands are issued. I have noticed that my mistress is continually receiving circulars with colours and patterns of what she calls frocks on them. So these must be the orders issued from headquarters. Very few indeed dare disobey these commands, for if any of them dress differently, they are like a striped dog in a pack and get unwelcome attention. Humans call it being out of fashion, whatever that may mean. I went to a show once and, by the way, got a red ticket, first prize. But all the dogs were amused at the manner of judging. The shape of our heads, length of ears, straightness of legs, clean feet, the way we carried our ears and tails, all these were taken into consideration. But the real test no one ever called for. The nose is the real test of a dog. We ought to have been made to retrieve something, to find our way back 10 or 20 miles from home, to detect the criminal from the law-abiding citizen. Not features, but qualities and virtues ought to fit us for a prize. Then there were the little microbes, I call them. Toy dogs, lying on cushions and having great bows of ribbon round their necks. What a disgrace to dogdom! Their bleary, bulgy eyes and snorting snub noses make them good for nothing but a lady's lap. Unhealthy little beasts. I dare not allow myself to write down what I think of them. Only one more word will I write. I love being with my master at all times. I have heard him say many times, and I am very proud when he says it, the more I see of men, the better I love my dog. Whether he takes me in the fields or in the town, it is all the same to me so long as I am with him. But the best time is when he sits in his study quietly alone. Perhaps he's reading and having a smoke at the same time. Then I like to draw up near to him and just touch him somewhere. It doesn't matter what part of him I touch, so long as we are in contact. Then his thoughts run into me, and I think mine do into him. He says he owns me, and so he does. But I own him too.